One of the most fundamental Jewish ethical practices is teshuvah, or tshuva. Tshuva is the word that's often translated as repentance, and is too often just associated in people's minds with the season of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Yamim Noraim, or Days of Awe. The word tshuva has a broader meaning of going back, or maybe going back over, and it is in fact a fundamental discipline in Judaism for every time of year. In Rabbi Moses Maimonides' Code of Jewish Law, the Mishneh Torah, tshuva is taught not in the Holy Day section, but in the section on the fundamentals of Torah. Maimonides defines the paradigm of tshuva as finding oneself in a situation where one previously acted wrongly or made the wrong choice, and this time doing it differently. Maimonides notes there are various ways to avoid doing wrong, including just not thinking of it the next time, or not having the power or capacity to do the same thing the next time around. So for Maimonides, the ideal tshuva is when you come to a situation again with awareness of exactly what you did wrong and the reality that it was wrong, and with all the same capacities and thoughts that you brought to the earlier time available to you this current time. But this time, out of free will, you override any situational or internal factors and take a different action. Usually we are not in exactly the same situation, with the exact same person we mistreated a certain way in the same locale or setting. Generally, tshuva opportunities are by analogy, where the situation reminds us of something we did before. Tshuva is a discipline of noticing those parallels, those analogies and resonances, and going back. We're supposed to go back in memory so we can name the act, the type of situation, the thoughts or motivations behind our choice before that we want to reverse. Then an act of tshuva is not just a bad act avoided this time, but a change within, overcoming a prior thing or a prior pattern in a way that is more likely to endure. The figure in the book of Bereshit, or Genesis, who most exemplifies tshuva is Yehudah, the fourth of the 12 sons of Yaakov. Yehudah plays a key role in throwing their younger brother Yosef into a pit to get him out of their lives, and then making it look to their father as though Yosef had been killed by a beast. Yehudah sees his father himself torn apart in mourning, and doesn't do anything to show the truth, much less own up to the act. Some years later, during the famine, Yehudah and most of his remaining brothers go down to Egypt to buy food. They meet with an official there who they don't realize is actually Yosef himself. In any case, the Egyptian sends them off with food, but insists on holding captive one brother, Shimon, and says that the brothers cannot come again for food without bringing along their youngest brother, Binyamin. They go home to Yaakov in the land of Canaan, and eventually their purchased food runs out. The only option is to go back to Egypt, and the only way they can do that is with Binyamin. Yaakov initially refuses, reminding his sons of his ongoing grief over Yosef. Standing in this situation once again, seeing his father still inconsolable, Yehudah has a moment of tshuva. He tells Yaakov that he personally will guarantee Binyamin's safety, exactly what he did not do when the brothers wanted to harm Yosef. This guarantee is the only thing that convinces Yaakov to let them take Binyamin and go for the food that will preserve their lives. Then, in Egypt, when the official offers to release all of the brothers to return home well provisioned if they leave Binyamin behind, Yehudah steps forward and tells this Egyptian stranger, or at least apparent stranger, a version of the story of their family. He mentions his father and his father's losses and grief. He mentions that there is a brother not with them. It's not the whole story, but faced with a similar choice as at the pit and just after, Yehudah goes back to the moment when Yosef was left behind and the aftermath. He states his refusal to do those things again to another brother and to his father. The book of Bereshit is not a manual of ethics. There are plenty of actions by our founding ancestors that look wrong or are wrong even in the eyes of tradition in Genesis. And in fact, as we shall see, it will take the Exodus story to finish the foundations of Jewish ethics. But if we look at the Torah from the standpoint of ethics, it is the development of Yehudah that is the culmination of the book of Genesis, the defining part of the generation that will complete the book. Yehuda's change may not meet every criterion of Maimonides for complete Teshuvah, but it's also a reminder of how much we can do by approaching that ideal. Yehuda's Teshuvah is described in the Torah through a series of moments. That's what Teshuvah is, an ongoing spiritual ethical discipline. It's one of the gifts of the many final chapters of the book of Bereshit. It's one of the reasons, I think, that we, the Jews, are named actually after Yehuda, after Judah, the Judahites, the Jews, the people who do Teshuvah.